Okay, we're ready to actually factorize a cubic. So here's a cubic, and to get started we need one factor. But this question kindly tells me a factor. It does ask me to show that it's a factor, so I know what to do. The factor is x minus 1, so I set up my magic value of x, which is the value of x that makes the bracket equal 0, so the magic x equals 1. And to show that this is a factor, I've got to show that when I do p of 1, I get, well, we know we put 1s in instead of the x's, and all of these things are 1s, so this is an easy calculation, and lo and behold I get the answer 0. But it's a show that question, so that I need to end up by actually drawing this conclusion. So I need to say x minus 1 is a factor. Okay, now I know that x minus 1 is a factor, I can go ahead and factorize p of x. So here's my p of x, and I'm going to factorize it. And I knew that x minus 1 was a factor, so that's going to be the linear factor that was mentioned, and this bracket is going to be a quadratic factor, so I'm going to have x squareds and junk like that in this second bracket. Now to set this up, I need to find a grid that will multiply out to give the polynomial. So let's set up a grid. Here we go. I've put in the factor that I know down the side. Now I take this term by term. I need an x cubed term, so x cubed is going to appear here. So what do I need to multiply x by to get x cubed? Well, the answer is x squared. So I'm going to have an x squared there. Now in the grid, minus 1 times x squared is going to give me a minus x squared here, whether I want it or not. So I've made this term work. Now I need to look at the minus 3x squared term. I've already got minus x squared, so I need another minus 2x squared from the grid. How am I going to get minus 2x squared? Well, I've got x times something, so this must be minus 2x. These two multiply to give that. Now I've made that term work. And now if I multiply out here, whether I want it or not, I'm going to have minus 1 times minus 2x is plus 2x. But I want 7x, so I'm going to need 5x here, so that these two combine to give me my 7x. These two combine to give me my minus 3x. How am I going to make that 5x appear? Well, I need this x here times 5. And if I do 5 times minus 1, I get minus 5, so the last term's worked out all by itself. And that's worked out nicely because I knew this x minus 1 was a factor, so the grid's worked out nicely. So I can now fill in my second factor. Reading across the top of the grid, it's x squared minus 2x plus 5. Here's my linear factor, here's my quadratic factor, and I'm done.